Ladies and gentlemen, we have the honor to spend a day today with Professor Daniel Buser here in Bern. So, Danny, we are in an amazing place. Can you tell us more about this place?
Yeah, this is true. This is an amazing building, the Swiss Institute of Translational and Entrepreneurial Medicine. This is a project of the state of Bern, private-public partnership project to foster and promote translational medicine, including dentistry, because in this building we also have all the preclinical labs of the School of Dental Medicine under the supervision of Professor Scully, and we all know. And this room here, this is an anatomical training center where they do a lot of cadaver surgery to examine, to learn these endoscopic surgeries, laparoscopic surgeries. And in this building and this room we also do then the surgical workshops on pork mandibles during our master courses.
Fantastic, you are really lucky to have a place like this. So Danny, to start from the beginning, how did you decide to become a dentist?
Yeah, that was not in my plan actually in the beginning. When I did my gymnasium, then you go with 19 baccalaureate, and then you go to university. And to be frank, I didn't know what to study. And then I said, yeah, let's start with business administration, which was very boring at that time. So after 3 semesters, I was very unhappy. But then by chance, I had a girlfriend, and her father was a dentist.
Ah.
Yes. So actually then once, I don't know, I did something with my hands, and he said, actually, you're very talented with your hands. Why don't you consider dentistry? Because then you can use your hands and your brain. And you are always working with patients, so with people. So I thought that's a pretty good idea. So 3 days later I signed up, and then in '75 I started to become a dentist. Took me 5 years, and 1980 then.
What a great suggestion.
Yes.
What a great suggestion. And then you finished the first part of your studies here in Bern, right?
Yes. After the board exam, you see, as a Swiss exam in dentistry, I decided to go here to the dental school. I was at that time a semi-professional handball player, and I wanted to have enough time also to practice. So 5 o'clock was clear, I have to go to the sport. To the sport. So that's why I decided to do that, and I have to say I fell in love with oral surgery right away. So did that for 2.5 years. Then became a senior surgeon here, quit my sports activities, and 2 years later started a very close collaboration with Professor Schröder, because he advertised me to stay in academics. And then it was clear when you do an academic career in Bern, you have to go abroad, because we're so small. And I decided to try to get to Harvard. The department of Ray Williams, a perio chairman at that time. And that's how I started then in '89 for almost 2 years at Harvard. Only research stay was 4 animal studies. Yeah.
And then there was 1 year in Australia, if I don't...
Yeah, this was then when I was already an established academician. Then I always took the chance to do sabbaticals once, also perio department in Dallas, Texas, '95, '96. Then I did one in Melbourne with Stephen Chen, also perio, always perio departments. And then the last one was then to the pros department. That was with Herman Galucci in 2016.
Interesting. So you mentioned Professor Schröder. Today you inspire generations of dentists, of course. But when you started, besides Professor Schröder, who inspired you and, I mean, contributed to what you are today?
I would say I had I was very lucky to have first Schröder as my mentor. Then the second mentor was Professor Schenk. Let's say from a professional point of view, I profited the most from Professor Schenk. He was a world-famous bone physiologist, but in the medical field. So he did all the preclinical studies on fracture healing, so bone healing in fractures. And of course, these principles, what they learned in the 60s and early 70s, could then be applied to osseointegrated implants and to GBR. So he was a retired professor at that time in the late 80s, early 90s, and he continued. Was able then to get him into the dental school and establish a histological lab with us. And he was so open to share his knowledge with the young generation. And he was astonishing personality. He was not a minute jealous if you had a success. So he really enjoyed it. Up to his, when I think he quit the job here to help us in research when he was almost 80 years old. Before he did that, he gave all his knowledge to Dieter Bossart because he was his successor then. And then he passed away. He was almost 90 years old. So fabulous. Another one also important was Sture Neumann, or Neiman, because he came as a visiting professor to Bern, to Klaus Lang, and brought first membranes with him. And he came to me and said, I heard that you are the best surgeon here. Are you interested in membranes? And then that's how we did the first 15 GBR cases with Gore-Tex membranes.
Wow.
That was 88, 89.
What did you think first when you saw a membrane? Because
it was not a surprise to me because I have been, of course, going to these lectures on GTR. And I always said, look, this makes a lot of sense to separate the tissues. And I said, the problem in periodontal application, of course, has been that you could not close the flap because there was always a tooth where the bacteria could go back in. I said, this should work even better when we do that in implant case because there we can submerge and close the flap. So when we started, I said the future in GBR, actually I established that term in my first book, GBR. You see, I said this is going to be much more successful than GTR, and it was actually the case. Wow. So we were very excited, and of course, as I said, we have been lucky that we were, when it all started, we were actually part of the original group.
With Stalin and so on. You really wrote the history.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. So these early studies on GBR had influenced and significantly changed all the clinical concepts. But for us, would be interesting to know what was the role of industry in this moment.
Industry was always extremely important. That's why translational medicine is always a strong interplay between the scientific side, clinical side, and the medtech side, you could call it. Because when you use devices, then you need a good partner in industry. And this is nothing negative. This is actually very positive. When you look at the strengths of the Swiss medtech companies, that includes Straumann, Geistlich, and BNR, Siemens, they are all leading companies in the world. And they had a very good attitude. They always were talking to the clinicians, these research groups, you see, very intensively. Bern played always a very big role in that one. And I only can say this is extremely, extremely beneficial at the end for the patient.
Exactly. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's a partnership that, that both sides need each other to create something new. So it's very interesting. And then how did you get in touch with HuFreedy? What happened?
Yeah, I got in touch with HuFreedy, I would say early 90s, because the European manager was Bernard Guettin, very outspoken person, very nice guy, same size as I am, so we had same eye level, and I asked him, you see, that if they could produce for us finer instruments. You see, I was in oral surgery. My boss at that time was a maxillofacial surgeon,
so
of course,
used
to large flaps and so on. And I said, we need better instruments to reduce the trauma for the tissues when we do implant surgeries. And that's how actually he then established then they made for me this Buser periosteal and some of the other instruments. And then, of course, with this contact, I got in touch with HuFriedy Chicago, Karen Niner. I think she's still in the company.
Yes, yes.
So she was for me for many, many, many years a really close ally. And yeah, and early 2000, then I went back to them and said, we need a bone scraper. Mm-hmm. We need to have something that can be reused. So I've been always very, very pleased with this collaboration, and I think HuFriedy is one of the top companies in that field. That's no question.
Yeah, so you know, Buser periosteal is truly one of the most sold instruments, not only in our own company, but it became part of every instrument manufacturer. So it's one of the highest number of instruments that we sell. So can you tell, just guess, how many we sell average per year of just one single instrument?
One single instrument?
Just say something.
No clue. Also, the Buser periosteal?
No, the Buser periosteal. It's a very, very famous instrument. Or you don't even say Buser periosteal, you say the Buser.
Oh, the Buser.
Like the preacher, the Buser. Yes.
I have no clue. 10,000?
Yes, nearly.
Nearly?
Nearly.
Which is fantastic.
It's amazing. It's one of the most, I mean, in one single instrument, you don't sell so many.
Yeah, of course.
I
mean,
it's really big.
But then let's work on it to have it more than 10,000.
Even more, exactly.
That's a good attitude. Because you have, you really can mobilize flaps very easily, and you can reduce the trauma because it's a very fine instrument.
Yeah, and then I like also the idea of your Buser scrapers, because as far as I understood, they came because you thought also about an environmental aspect of not having a single-use.
No, I thought, you see, I mean, I know these single-use scrapers, you see, you pay, I don't know, $60. First of all, that's a lot of money, and then the patient has to pay for that. And second one, of course, you use it once and then you throw it away. And when you do 200 surgeries a year, you throw away 200 instruments, and this is all plastic. And I think we all know the discussion we have right now. So we want to improve that situation. And if you have a metal instrument, you can resharpen and you re-sterilize and use it 1,000 times.
Exactly.
I think that's just much better.
Yeah, we agree. So you are one of the leading actors, of course, who wrote the history of implantology and bone regeneration. Is there something that you could change if you could come back? If you would like to change if you could come back, or something that you, I don't know, would have done differently today?
No, I think, as I said, I have been very lucky to get in the right time to the right people, and they supported me and gave me this opportunity. Now, in my career now as chairman, I have done, I try to be the same, to play the same role as a mentor, and we had a couple of youngsters, either international visitors to come here and go back to their universities, or then in Bern. And I think I don't regret anything. No, I think we made a nice journey, you see. Lucky also with the family, you see. I'm married to a very nice lady, my wife Ernie. She raised 3 kids, and I did probably 20% of the job maximum. And the beauty was that with the sabbaticals I always spent, and with our kids, very intense 6 months in Dallas, or I don't know, 6 months in Melbourne. That was very important for the bonding as well. But I think without my wife, I would not have such 3 nice kids because... Well,
they say that behind every important man there is a very important woman, right? No, so I'm sure that this is not just words.
Today the setup is different, you see. Of course, today often then, of course, the spouses, they have a different setup, and I think that's important to do as well. But no, I'm very happy with my development. And,
of course, so you should be. I mean, you did an amazing, amazing stuff for dentistry for sure. So when we think a little bit of the history, so tell me a little bit about ITI, for example. How did you get in, or I mean, how did it start?
That was again Schröder. You see Schröder.
Okay, so he was already the founder.
He was, when we talked before about this relationship between industry and the clinical side, they did that already in this association to study this internal fixation for fracture treatment. That was also in Switzerland. Very famous orthopedic surgeons. They completely changed the way of thinking for fracture treatment. And so when Schröder went into implants and asked for a partner, they said, you go to Straumann. And Fritz Straumann was part of this orthopedic group. So he said, we don't have to establish a new setup. We know how it works. So establish an own group, like a little sister of the other one. And that was called ITI, International Team. I mean, that says it all. It's a teamwork of implantology, ITI. So when I met Schröder and he said, stay in academics, he said one day, yeah, Dr. Buser, you will become a new ITI member now. So he made a decision for me. So 86, I joined the group. I was by far the youngest. So he was very pleased, of course, how everything progressed. And when I was at Harvard and came back to Bern, we discussed often that education must become play a much more important role, because when it's the same today, this is the most important now, education. So he said, yeah, then we have to establish an education group inside ITI, and why don't you take the lead and become our education delegate? So 92, the board of ITI named me the delegate, ITI education delegate, and from then on I was at every board meeting, although I was not board member at the beginning. So then later on they established an education committee, then of course became then a member of the board, and then ITI president, past president, and now I'm just at the sideline, you see. ITI is an amazing association, amazing.
Yeah, we know.
And you know what is the real secret? That ITI has established a rule in early 2000 that when you serve in a specific function, that this function is limited to 4 years. And then you have to move out. Because that gives us a chance to always bring in younger blood, you could say.
Okay, I understand. That's a good...
Good. And what they also do, ITI, and this was actually Fritz Straumann who initiated that, he said, Straumann gives quite some millions of Swiss francs to ITI, and 2.5 million of that money is used for research grants. So if you are a young academician and you want to do research, then this is a potential source of grant money, though it's very tough to get it because it's competitive. But of course, when you get an ITI grant for 100,000 bucks or 200,000, well, this is an achievement. And by doing so, you see many of these researchers become very loyal to ITI. They join the group, become a fellow, whatever. Then they also have a stipend for scholarships. That's another 1.5 million of ITI Foundation. So this is now more than 30 scholars going somewhere for 1 year to learn how to treat. I had 32 ITI scholars during my time as chairman in Bern, and they're all almost like my kids. I know them very well. Most of them are back home now. Nice. Some of them are professors, some are in private clinic, very successful. So this has established a fantastic network of friends.
Nice,
Same ideas, evidence-based approach, sticking to quality. So that's how it works.
We could see in your symposium that was made in your name and all the testimonials there from the ITI. It was really amazing.
So we really have to acknowledge and really pay tribute to the founders of ITI and how it developed then.
Yeah.
And I was just last week in Germany at an ITI meeting to give a speech, and they said we're going to change the leadership team completely, and again they go 5 to 10 years younger now. So they give the 40 to 45-year-old the power to be in charge of this section.
The new generation.
I mean, those who were in the beginning in this German section, they're not even alive anymore. You see, I mean, they passed away 10 years ago or so. So I think that is why ITI is so damn successful.
Absolutely.
This rejuvenation.
And this word team is really nice.
Team.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and recently, though, you founded Boozer Implant Foundation. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, this is also something I learned. You see, I mean, I've been very successful, very lucky, and of course, I mean, I was never on the industrial side. You see, I mean, those on the industrial side, some of them are really rich now. But I said, see, my payback was my career, my reputation, and to have so many friends. But anyhow, you see, I mean, compared to the normal population, you could say you're still in really good financial conditions. So I said it's time to pay back something. And we established this foundation, very small foundation compared to all the big ones we have. And I said, you see, now when we write a GBR book, so we get from Quintessence some money for that, that goes into that foundation. So when we have collaborations with companies, so some of the money goes into foundation, and all the surplus of our master courses go into this Boozer Implant Foundation. And now we started like the little sister of the ITI Foundation. You see, this is, I don't know, budget of 15 to 20 million a year. So probably we might have then a budget of 100,000 to 200,000 Swiss francs a year. And we give to young investigators, so-called junior investigator grants of 30 grants, you see, and we give also scholarships. We have already one now in Bern, in Professor Schimmel's department. So we just want to help support the youngsters, young generation. That will make a lot of satisfaction.
Nice, yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
And for what concerns education, you also founded with Tony Sculian the Boozer and Sculian Academy, right?
Yeah.
Can you also tell us a bit more?
Yeah, look, we have been doing we have been doing master courses for many years, and when the pandemic hit us, so we had to stop everything. So people couldn't come to Switzerland. So for 9 months, no master course anymore. And then we said, what are we going to do? So I actually had a very important meeting with a young company called Newsroom Communications in Bern, Benny Blaser, to have a coffee with him, because I have known him for other activities. And he told me that also Newsroom is actually endangered by this development. And he said, we have to re-establish a complete new activity in the streaming technology. This company is very strong in digital. And I said, yeah, I think we could be really good partners, because then we could do actually these master courses as hybrid courses. So once in the future, people will still come back to Bern, but we can also stream. So that's how we then decided to go into the streaming technology with this new partner, Newsroom Communications in Bern. Top company, 20 people, I really like them a lot. And then we said, then we have to also pay more attention to marketing and to social media. So we really
You became very famous on social media recently.
Yeah, we have actually a Facebook group now with more than 13,000 followers. And when you really post a very interesting case, you get another 300 within 2-3 days. This is shared. And then actually we said, to really have a better chance in the markets, we should probably use the names of Sculian and myself, because both names are very big names in the perio field, in the implant field. Why not use them as an academy? So actually, this
very
was established, and I think, yes, this is a tool to market our master courses easier. and team up with the companies who do the same then for us. So actually, it's we want to reach out. I say, look, when I quit my job as chairman in 2019. Up then, I did about 6 different jobs. So I was a clinician as a surgeon. I had educated undergrads, educated postgrads. I did continuing education. I had to organize a department with 70 plus collaborators. And of course, we did a lot of research. Also 6 in total. And now I'm retired at university and I do only 2. Clinician, I'm a clinician, continue to treat, and I do continuing education. Also nothing with postdocs and so on. And the beauty is streaming technology gives you a chance to do a global knowledge sharing. Exactly. So we want to share the knowledge I have acquired in 35 years now to the young generation. 35-year-old colleagues who want to become good implant surgeons.
And maybe they still cannot come to Bern immediately at the beginning. You can still reach them and help them.
Yeah, and you have to understand. You see, when you are living in Brazil or in Peru or so, to fly to Switzerland and take a week off, leave the family behind. This is actually not so attractive. So I really believe that this pandemic has given us a fantastic opportunity because the technology has made such a progress because the companies were forced to invest money, like Newsroom. I mean, they did not have this technology available 2 years ago, but now they are top-notch in that, you see, and we can profit from that. So actually, I'm very enthusiastic about, let's say, the next 3 to 5 years. I think as far as I can do surgeries with big enthusiasm and big joy, I will continue to teach, and then I'll probably go then into retirement, definitely.
But you have a third role now.
Yes.
You became a grandfather. That's also a role, right? Very
that's also a role,
one.
Yes. A little girl, Solène. So, of course, it's very small. It's now close to 3 kilograms, I heard now. And we're going to get another one, actually, in 4 weeks.
Ooh.
Yeah, from our son and from the daughter-in-law, Nora. And the change will, the life will change because it's already set up. From now on Monday, I'm off. So
that's your new job.
That's Grandparents' Day. Of course, the boss will be my wife, as usual. You see, she will tell us what we do, and we're going to have 2 grandchildren to take care of. The teamwork. And we will also actually get a dog now, you see.
Nice, wow.
Also for the grandchildren. So a nice Labradoodle. So actually, we're going to have a very exciting time ahead of us. Nice. I would say in June or so, then this grandparents' job will start after 3 to 4 months. Yeah, that will be exciting, actually.
News,
I look forward very much.
Yeah.
Nice. And of course, the granddaughter is beautiful.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Wow, that's very nice.
What a nice life.
So, last thing, would you, what suggestion or advice would you give to a young dentist today?
I would say the following, probably 2 important roles. One is stick to evidence-based dentistry, to procedures and protocols that are well documented. The second one, invest time in a really good education. And this is not on the undergrad. So when you get your diploma, then invest time into a top postgrad education. And I think that is paying off. And then the third point, of course, is because the development is so tremendous, lifelong learning is a must. So stick to lifelong learning. In the implant field, I can only give you advice, become a member of ITI, because there you get into a large family. So you have these country sections or regional sections, but you're also part of the international ITI family, many 20,000 plus members. And I know that on ITI education platform, more than 40,000 are there as well, without being an ITI member. I mean, this is a tremendous success. And so invest their time and efforts because it is paying off.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for the chat. It was a big pleasure and
Yeah,
an
it's
honor
my pleasure, of course.
to be here with you in Bern.
Yeah,
So
thank you so much.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you. Thank you.